Let me ask you this question. If you had the opportunity to change yourself over the next 6 months, what would your life look like? You see, for many people, we accept where we're at right now. And we live life always dreaming about changing. And I'm not talking about changing yourself in a total appearance and who you are internally, because you're not going to change that. But really changing, maybe you start looking at your mindset, getting yourself to be more positive. Maybe start changing your financial situation, where you're at right now. You know, for many people, when we start looking at ourselves, we always dream, oh, I wish I could actually be like that person. Well, what if you can do it? And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to share with you a very simple technique that you can actually start to implement over the next 6 months to actually make where you're at right now into that future person that you actually desire. Now, if this is something that really interests you, well, stay on, because we're going to go into it. If it's something where you go, you know what, Stuart, I'm happy where I am, well, then you can actually say, great. And maybe there's one or two little tidbits that I will share with you. You see, when I've had conversations with people, and the vast majority, when we start talking about goals, where they'd like to be in 6 months or even 6 years, it's always very different to where they are right now. And the question I've asked so many people is, well, why don't you start making that change? And there's been this common response that's come back to me. And it was through the reflection of these responses that suddenly this session was actually ignited. You see, for many people, they told me, well, Stuart, I'm just waiting for the perfect time. And I've always said to myself, well, what is the perfect time? Well, no, I'm waiting for, and ultimately what they start to explain to me is they're waiting for that future person, that person that they desire, they're waiting for that to happen. And when I actually come back to them and I share with them, well, that's not going to happen unless you start right now. And that is what I want to share with you now. You see, you have the power to make that change in your life to start moving forward. But what's so important about it is, for many of us, we don't know what we want to become. So that's why I'm going to go through a few little tips and tricks to help you through this particular journey. You see, change does not have to take years to actually happen. It can actually take as short, well, you can do it in a couple of days, but unfortunately the habit will revert you back. Typically, it takes around about 6 months, but it's not 6 months of doing everything that you just don't know what you want to do and doing things that you don't want to do. It's actually change that you can make. So let's have a look at these key points that I want to share with you. You see, really where it starts out is having that crystal clear vision of what your future life actually looks like. Now, you can sit down and you can dream about it, you can think about it, but ultimately what you really need to do is you need to write it down. You see, when we write down what our future self looks like, the one that we actually desire, it actually starts to invoke parts of our body and our mind that starts to get a more clearer vision. We start thinking about it. You know, what does my health look like in maybe 6 to 8 months' time? What does my personal relationships with my friends, my family, maybe the colleagues around me, what does that look like? What does my finance look like? What does my business look like? In fact, what have I developed in myself? Maybe I've become a better person in a certain area. You see, when we start to break down the vision of our future, writing down the clarity in various areas and being very specific in those particular areas, it actually starts to generate more clarity. We can actually start to see it. We can actually start to visualize what we look like. And that actually is going to start giving you levels of energy. But here's something. And this is through coaching. This is one of the reasons why, as a coach, we always ask our clients to write down their goals. You see, when you write down your goals and then read it back to somebody, not only do you internalize it and you start getting yourself accountable to the person that you speak to, but you actually start to rewire your brain. You start to think differently by that very simple exercise. You see, this exercise actually does a bit of a brain reset because it actually gets you out of where you're at right now and starts getting you thinking about that place in the actual future. So the first step is really take some time, and it can take you 5 minutes, it could take you 10 minutes. Sit down and write down, what does your life look like in, let's say, 6 months' time? Looking at your health, looking at your personal relationships, looking at the development that you have, your business, your finances. You can even look at your spirituality of where you're at. Now, once you've actually written that down and you've read it out aloud, what you're actually going to start doing is you're going to start looking at that and going, there's a few shortfalls of where I am right now. And you can ask yourself the question, now that I've got this clear vision of who I would like to be in the future, in 6 months' time, you can ask yourself the question, what skill do I need to master in order to get there? You see, for so many times, or so many people, when they think of the future, what they're actually seeing is they're seeing a different person in the future. They're seeing a person with new skill sets or a level of skill sets that is, they've mastered it. And that's where we start looking at that skill set. What is it that you need to master? And once you can identify that, what you actually do is you actually start to work towards achieving that particular skill at the highest level. You see, it might be something that you're truly passionate about. There might be something that you want to play the guitar. You're really passionate about, but you've never done it. But you can see yourself in the future actually sitting around a fire, just playing the guitar and singing to people. Well, there's a skill that you would need to master, is learning to play the guitar. So for the next 6 months, what would you do? You would actually almost encourage yourself to start learning that actual guitar, just as an example. You see, what you can also do with it is starting to immerse yourself in the books that you read. So there's a skill that you want to develop. Start looking at what you can read, what you can start listening to, whether it's podcasts, whether it's videos. You want to start to look to see, how do you master it? You see, you learn from others. So learn through your ears, your eyes, to get that skill to the next level. You see, once you're going on this particular journey, it's a journey that you want to take. And that skill is going to start becoming part of you every single day. And remember, we're setting this out for, we can work the timeline of 6 months. Once we've identified that particular skill and the clarity of where we want to do, or where we want to go, we start to build a plan. We start building it into our particular calendars, and we actually put out these steps of, what do I need to do each and every week? So let's go back to that example of learning to play the guitar. Well, maybe it's downloading an app. Maybe it's buying a guitar. Maybe it's actually saying, you know what, once a week, I want to sit with an instructor, someone that could teach me how to play the guitar. And you're doing that on a weekly basis. You see, once you actually start to put that into a plan, you're actually going to start creating those activities. But there's something that I've actually come to realize. As a coach working with clients, we see the goal, we build the plan, and about a month into it, suddenly things change. And we start going on a different journey, but with the same outcome in mind. So, as an example, you might have started to go with maybe an app on your phone of how to play the guitar, and you're finding that you just don't get the time to actually do that. So you start booking an appointment with someone who can actually teach you, which means you're actually going to have to go to someone to teach you. You see, the journey that you take to get to the outcome, it can change. You can take a different path, but ultimately the clarity of the outcome will still remain exactly the same. So once you've got this plan in place, just remember, it can deviate the journey, it can deviate the path, but you need to be very, very much aware of where you're heading towards. Now, to make sure that you always head towards that particular goal, you need to have a very strong purpose behind it. And ask yourself the question, why is it so important for me to master this particular skill? You see, when you've actually got that purpose, that why reason behind it, what actually happens is it starts to fuel you with energy. You actually start to go, hey, I want to do this. Why? Because then I could sit around the fire and I can play the songs to my family and actually enjoy that particular environment. So too often, we actually sit back and go, well, I like to do it. It's what I want to. And then as we start to go through it, it starts to fade away. But it's that purpose, it's that drive, it's knowing why you're doing it. It actually supports. And in fact, the plan is the vehicle. The why is the fuel. So that's why they work together all the time. So that journey that you take, it is fueled by your why. And then the next one, and this is really one where I've actually come to see this with so many individuals that I've worked with. We decide that we want to go in a certain path to hit a certain destination, to be a certain person, to achieve a certain goal. But we don't seem to get there. And through discovery, what we've actually discovered is sometimes it's not actually us. It's actually the environment and maybe even the people that we circle with. You see, we might be circling with individuals that are telling us, you can't do that. We might be circling with individuals that start to take your time away. They start pulling you in a very different direction. And this is an area where it's going to become quite tough. But you need to recognize, what are those distractions? What is it in your past that has always pulled you away from achieving those particular goals? When you become aware of it, what you need to do is you need to address it. And addressing it means, if you've set yourself a goal for the next 6 months, this is what I want to achieve, you actually need to step away from that environment for at least 6 months. Now, I'm not saying that you go out and you get divorced or you basically tell all your friends, I'm not going to see you for the next 6 months. But what you can do is, if you've got a set of friends that maybe every single Friday they go out and they do a certain activity that's pulling you away, you actually say to them straight up front, hey, by the way, for the next 6 months, I'm actually developing this. This is what I'm actually studying. So I'm going to be doing this for the next 6 months, and I won't be able to attend whatever that particular party, session, or activity is. You see, you want to be in control of the activities that you're going forward. So be aware of those distractions. Be aware of what has been preventing you in the past to achieve those certain goals. And take those, address them, put them to one side for 6 months to allow you to focus on the path that you're actually going ahead so that you are in control. Now, what's amazing when you do this, you're going to feel at the beginning almost like this load comes off your shoulder, because you're going to be stepping into an environment that could actually be new to you. It could actually be exciting for you. In fact, it will be exciting for you. It will be going in such a direction that you're going to be going, hey, I actually like this. And over the next 6 months, as you're going through this particular journey, if you've got that clarity, if you've got that plan, if you know that skill that you're wanting to develop, you've actually taken those distractions, that environment, and you've just pushed it to one side, only for 6 months, you'll be coming back. What you will find after this particular journey, after the 6 month period, when you actually step back into the world, and you start to bring all those distractions back into your life, because those are friends, family, or activities that you're fairly familiar with, you're going to start seeing things very differently. You're going to notice the world that you were in wasn't really the world that you wanted to be in, but you were pressurized to be into that particular world. When you step out and you've gone through this particular exercise, and then you start to come back, you're going to see the world in a very different way. What you're going to discover is that achieving goals is actually in your control. And the reason why we've never gone in the past and achieved as many goals as we wanted to is because we've been distracted by the environment around us. We didn't actually focus on the skill that we needed to master. We didn't have that plan that was actually purposefully driven to go forward. And ultimately, what I've come to realize is many people don't even have clarity of the goal. What they have is the goal that's put on them by somebody else. It's somebody else's goals. So when you go through this particular step and you actually start to step out, take control, start moving forward, you're going to actually start to see how achieving goals is actually 100% in your control. All you've got to do is ask yourself the question, the activity that I'm doing today, is it actually getting me closer to my goal, or is it moving me further away from my goal? Is the activity today an activity that I want to do, or is it an activity that's been pressured from somebody else? When we start to have a look at our life and being in control, we actually start to achieve some amazing results. Now, through this particular little journey and what I've shared with you, I'd like you, and I actually almost, I want to put it to you to go, let you try this. Why not? What have you got to lose? What have you got to lose if you actually sit down now, go through the steps that I've shared with you, put it into action, and in 6 months, when you actually start to reflect back, ask yourself the question, did I make the right choice 6 months ago? And I can guarantee you it's going to be a yes. And the reason why it's a yes is because it's where you want to be. The clarity of your future is now in the palms of your hand. You see, we actually underestimate what we can do in our life. You do have that power in the next 6 months to actually change, to actually be in control, and actually go forward to have that desired outcome. I've used this term many, many times. Live a life by design, not by default. Live a life by design, not by default. And you see, by default is what we have around us. We default to the people we circle with. We default to the environment that's around us. But when you live a life by design, you design it. You actually work out what it looks like. And when you start doing this on an ongoing basis, suddenly you're starting to live a life that actually gives you purpose. And you're going to find that you're going to start achieving some of the most amazing goals that you have ever dreamed up of. And remember, a dream can become a reality, but only through actions. So I want you to take what I've shared with you today, and I want you to implement it. I want to see how your life can actually change. And I'm looking forward to meeting the new you in 6 months' time when you come back and say, I can't believe this is my new me. So I look forward to seeing you in 6 months' time.